Marhaba and welcome in Goa Shahi. It's finally arrived, the 12th of October 2019, and I think more than certainly this is a world premiere for an online Sufi course catering for the Western seekers of spirituality and Sufism, which is greatly appreciated and greatly anticipated. People have been so excited and joining this Sufi course. And His Holiness has, over this last week or so, been giving us some teasers of exactly what's going to be covered. And very exciting news that we're going to be learning about the 3 Qs, the intelligence, emotional, and spiritual quotient. So the 3 Qs, which we'll be expanding on. His Holiness is going to go into great depth into these, and we're firstly going to welcome any newcomers, any viewers that are new to ALRA TV and to this Sufi course. A very warm welcome to you. Please relax and enjoy this course. And if there are any questions, anything you're not sure of, you can always ask His Holiness. He's very approachable. He loves answering questions. And the panel here will be discussing things. If you want us to discuss anything or to bring anything up, you're more than welcome to notify us. I have the Vice President of Messiah Foundation International, Nasir Younus, right next to me, and a bit later he's going to go into detail how you can contact us, how you can put questions to us that they might not be able to be answered straight away. And you don't always have to watch live, which is wonderful. Everybody's got busy lives. Everybody's going to be in different time zones all over the world watching. So we do appreciate that not everybody can watch live. So there's going to be lots of opportunity to log on and watch at your leisure, at your time frame. So there's going to be other things covered. I'm sure Nasir is going to add to what I've already said, but another warm welcome to you, and please enjoy the course. Thank you so much.
Hi, and welcome to the Western Sufi Course. And the way Steve just introduced everybody to the Western Sufi Course, it couldn't have been done any better. And I'd just like to add that obviously there are people all over the world, from the United States, in the UK, and then into Europe and Middle East and in the Far East. And obviously the timing won't match everyone. Not everybody would be able to make it online live when the course will be conducted. Some people may be at work. And for this reason, we have the suficourse.com website. And if you go onto the website on suficourse.com and enter the Western Sufi Course, and you can enroll there. And after every course, after every day, the video and which will also be followed by the article format of each day of each course will all be available on the website. So you won't be missing out on anything if you're not able to watch it live. Like Steve said, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask the questions, but do be aware that during the course, obviously, when a point is being examined and analyzed and explained, the question might not be able to be answered straight away. So you can leave your questions on YouTube chat, and we can save them. And what would be better, apart from leaving your questions on YouTube chat, is if you could leave your question on our Facebook Messenger for ALRA TV, and the link for that will be appearing on YouTube chat right now. It's http://m.me/ALRA TV. So it's going to be appearing on YouTube chat right now, and you can leave your comments there. We will save your comments, and whenever the question and answer session starts, your question will be presented, and if you send us your question on Facebook Messenger, we can return your answer in a form of a video reply directly to you afterwards. So again, we'd like to warmly welcome everybody to the Western Sufi course, and the hype leading to this course was really amazing in terms to the small teasers that His Holiness Younus AlGohar kept on giving us before the course. And we're definitely excited, but the one person I know that's more excited than all of us is His Holiness himself. Yeah. So this course, I think, is going to change the way we think about spirituality, religions in a whole, forever from here onwards. And obviously, after the course takes place today, this course will be available to everyone for as long as I can think of. It's going to be available to everyone, to help everyone online, even after the course has ended. So don't be shy and don't hesitate. You can start enrolling today. If you have any questions, you can start writing them on YouTube chat right now. And would you like to mention anything, Rehan?
Welcome to the Sufi course. As Steve and Nasir have mentioned, this is a highly anticipated course, just because it's now specially made just for everyone who's in the West, so they can understand Sufism and the Sufi course. So it's been opened up, so people from different regions can now understand. People from the West can now understand spirituality, because a lot of people who were introduced to spirituality and Sufism found it quite complicated with the information that's been available before. Yes. But with this course, it's going to be very simplified. It's going to be very easy to understand. And it's available on so many different platforms, on Facebook, on YouTube. I think we have Instagram and other places. So if you want to send in your questions, you're more than welcome to send them in. And your questions definitely get answered. So this is one of the best places to get yourself enlightened and more informed about Sufism. And we can reach another level of spirituality that way.
Yeah, and just rest assured that this is going to be the true and historical Sufi path. It's going to be the original source of Sufism, and it's just a slight variation on the application. This is what His Holiness has assured us, that there will be slight variations in teachings, and as Nasir mentioned earlier, that the different interpretations that has been by Westerners in the past. When we travel, we hear lots of self-love. You must love yourself. But it's really about self-realization.
Exactly.
This is what it's about, and knowing yourself, not just loving yourself. Everybody can love themselves, but knowing yourself is the difficult part, and this is what the key to, once you know yourself and you realize yourself and you know your reality, then you can start to know God and know God's reality and know if God exists when you know your own existence. Yeah. So I hope that this is going to put that to rest, that it's not just about loving yourself, it's about self-realization. And I think that's going to be a really key point in this whole Sufi course. Yep. And it's going to blow everything out of the water. Yep. It's going to be absolutely amazing. So it's not too late to recommend to anybody else to join. Yep. They can join at any time, and they can catch up on past uploads and things. It'll be wonderful. So thank you again.
Gohar Marhaba. Today we commence the Western Sufi Course, long awaited Western Sufi Course. And this Western Sufi Course is a combination of many different aspects of divinity and humanity. The psychological aspect of life, the moral aspect of life, behavioral aspect of life, spiritual aspect of life. Because the spirituality comprises of all these little tiny elements of human and divine nature. There is no direct approach to being a spiritual man. You pursue in spirituality through different highways and byways, and you cover a lot of perimetres of divinity. And here we go. We start our Sufi course with a wonderful song.
Battery 100%. Connected to iPhone and iPhone.
Purify my heart, let me be as gold and precious silver. Purify my heart, let me be as gold, pure gold, refines fire. My heart's one desire is to be holy,
Wow.
set apart for you, Lord. I choose to be holy,
I choose to be holy.
set apart for you, my master, ready to do your will. Purify my heart, cleanse me from within.
Wow. Cleanse me from within.
Make me holy, purify my heart, cleanse me from my sin, deep within, refine this fire, my heart's one desire
to do your will. Spirituality fundamentally is awakening of the souls. The principal spirituality is adhered not to a set of beliefs, but to enlightenment and awakening of the souls. And through spirituality, one paves way for himself and herself to experiencing of God. The souls have this natural tendency in them to return to its origin. So seeking God, seeking divine love is not something that you will learn from somebody. It has been invested by God in your nature. It is in the nature of every soul to return to its origin. That's why when the loving souls go through this physical migration from the realm of angels and they find themselves migrated to the realm of the reasoning, they appear to be oblivion of themselves. And they wander here and there to find themselves, who they are, and what is the purpose of their descent on earth. This all is a spirituality. But we have so many different societies in the world. And these societies have already taken certain religious flavors throughout the world. So the fundamentals of spirituality have certain accents of color. And then the knowledge of spirituality was diversified into many different spiritual creed and many different spiritual explanation and interpretations. However, the basics of spirituality, as it appears by the word spirituality, is definitely the awakening of the souls and the spirits within you. As the human population became wary of religions and moral practices of religions, they started distancing themselves from religious teachings, from religious practices, from religious philosophies, and they became religionless. Another reason for not being fond of the religions anymore was that they strived hard whilst they were in those religions. But the outcome of the vigorous practice of the religion was futile. And they were unable to quench their spiritual thirst. And then they assumed that religions were only a set of ritualistic beliefs, customary practices, rituals, conventional, and nothing was aimed at finding the inner peace. The religions stopped grooming its practitioners. Religions lacked spiritual grooming. And it is very unfortunate that most of the massacre, carnage, bloodbath, killing, bloodshed came from people who followed a religion. To kill another human being in the name of God and in the name of the religion is what caused people to distance themselves from the religions. Obviously, there are reasons why religions were hijacked and how false interpretations of the religions distorted the image of the religions. This is yet another story. We have no time to go into further details of how the religions were destroyed. But as the matter of the truth, what we see today is that the religions are no more in a position to cater for the needs of humanity, the spiritual needs, the mystical, hidden needs, the need and desire and want of returning to the origin, embracing the Creator. So when people shun practices of the religions, they looked for an alternative. And they find an alternate. And this was spirituality. Spirituality. Not knowing that spirituality is the mother of religions. Not knowing that spirituality is mother of the religions. They heard it on the grapevine that when you're a spiritual man and a spiritual woman, there are no restrictions, there are no limits, there are no do's and there are no don'ts, and there are no wars and there are no conflicts. Then Rumi replaced the religions in the West. Hafiz Shirazi replaced the religions in the West. And people started to adopt this new trend in the global societies, Sufism. Spirituality came from the West, from the East. Either you talk about Jewish spirituality, Kabbalah, or you talk about Hindu spirituality, or Christian spirituality, or even Muslim spirituality. All these different forms of spirituality comes from the East. So somehow or other, we have this dependency on spiritualists who come from the East, because spirituality originated from the East. Whether it is a guru from Himalayan mountains in India or Tibet mountain in China, or a Muslim Sufi from the jungle of Lal Bagh and different other remote places of hermitage. It is fundamentally Eastern philosophy. The West, out of the quest for spirituality, borrowed Sufism from the Eastern Sufis. Muslim Sufis, Hindu Sufis, or Dalai Lama, or Anandamurti Guruma of Sonipat, Haryana, India, or Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi of Konya, Turkey, or the Bektashi order from Turkey, Younus from Turkey, Anatolia, or Shams Tabriz from Azerbaijan, or Inayat Khan from India, or Idris Shah, or Bulle Shah from Pakistan. And now the universal Sufi order spreads the Goharian philosophy of Sufism with a universal approach. A Sufi is a Sufi. A Sufi is a Sufi whether he comes from Hindu background or a Muslim background or a Jewish background. A Sufi is a Sufi. Sufi is one who has purified himself. And those who have purified himself, they become Sufi. Some people who are fed up with the religions, they still continue to believe in God, though they didn't want to follow a religion, but they still believed in God. So they looked for a form of spirituality in which they would be able to have this experience of God, in which they may develop an intimate relationship with God. This was authentic spirituality. And then those who are agnostics, who are atheists, who didn't believe in existence of God, but they still were enchanted and they felt attracted towards the charms of spirituality. They did want to practice spirituality. However, they introduced a form of spirituality which they believed was secular spirituality, in which There was no concept of enlightenment of the souls, or no concept of loving God or following a religion. Secular spirituality was meant to find inner peace and personal growth. That's all. And there are many different societies in the world today who claim to practice secular spirituality. And in their form of spirituality, there is no concept of God. There is no concept of Creator. However, they still meditate upon certain objects. They meditate the meditation of silence. They concentrate on one point and exiting all different thoughts from their brain. And obviously, when all different assorted thoughts are pushed out of your brain for a certain period of time, and your brain is focused on one point alone, you will definitely find some peace. It's like there are 2,000 pictures in your folder in the phone, and suddenly you decide to delete all of them. The moment you delete all of them, and there is still 5 GB available in your iPhone will feel it's really fast. So this is exactly what happens when they engage themselves in meditation of silence, in which they push all the thoughts out of their brain and they concentrate on one point, and that one point alone gives them certain serenity, certain peace. Because the brain becomes stationary. When the brain is busy processing too many thoughts, and sometimes there are different thoughts, and these different thoughts are so weird and different in nature that they cannot intermingle with each other. This is when you begin to have a headache. Thought about sexuality and the same time thought about spirituality and the same time thought about hockey and cricket and football. They're all different assorted thoughts. They cannot intermingle into each other. And this is when you begin to have a lot of stress on your brain. So secular spirituality is not our subject. I have to be apologetic when I denounce authenticity of secular spirituality. Had it been secular spirituality in a sense that no religion is required to find God, I would have been okay. Secular has been given a different meaning, not just without a religion, but without a God too. That is not natural. If you came into being without anybody bringing you into existence, then why the babies do not come into existence without parents? It only happened once. Why doesn't it happen every day? Well, it's just a coincidence that we came into existence. All right, just once? If this is the pattern of creation, then it should happen every day. Why a man has to sleep with a woman in order to create children? Right? So we have to accept the truth. And the truth is, there is God. Right? There is God. But must I tell you, there is no Muslim God, there is no Hindu God, there is no Christian God or a Jew God. There is only one God, and He is just God. He is for everybody. He is not a Muslim God. He is not a Christian God. He is just God. You may be a Muslim, you may be a Christian, but don't ascribe partners with God. You think if you're a Hindu, God is a Hindu? No. 20 years ago, I went to a shop in Thornton Heath, and I saw a big, huge picture of Jesus, but he was all black. And I asked this guy, why did you paint Jesus in black? He said, man, Jesus was black. I said, what? Jesus came from Jerusalem. He didn't come from Jamaica. And then he said, not just Jesus, even God is black. God doesn't have a skin like you. He can't be white, he can't be yellow, he can't be red, he can't be black. God is God. You have different colors of skin because of different species of Adam. We come from different species of Adam. This is why we have different skin color. But skin color does not denote our reality. It's not the skin color that we must emulate. We must emulate the moral character of God. We have to immerse our heart with the mark of God's love. So the type of spirituality that we will be pursuing in this Western Sufi course is divine, global, universal, immersive spirituality. Divine spirituality in which men will be bridged with God. Men will be with God. And this Western Sufi course is about to start now. In the first phase, we're going to start with self-actualization. What is self-actualization? Self-actualization is like when you want to go on a long journey, right? You want to make sure there is enough fuel in your car and that the engine oil is good, right? The radiator is fine, there is enough water, you have coolant available. To check the worthiness of your car, the road worthiness of your car, the travel worthiness of your car. And this is car actualization, right? When you embark upon a spiritual journey, you have to go through an aptitude test. An aptitude test from God. Evaluation. To evaluate yourself, what you may be spiritually capable of. To calculate your potential. What is it? To count your money before you go to a shopping mall. Count your pounds. How many pounds you have in your pocket? How many dollars you have in your pocket? Because you're going shopping. You must know how much money you have in your pocket, right? When you know how much money you have, only then you will make up your mind what to buy. If you don't know how much money you have, You don't know what can you buy. In order to know what can you buy, you must know how much money you have. In order to know how much can you love God. In order to know how much can you love God, and how near to God can you get, and how much will you emulate the virtues of God. You need to count your spiritual currencies. So that you can sum up your strength, like buying power, so that you can sum up your love power. How much can you love God, and how far on the path of spirituality can you travel up to? How far can you go? It's like a spiritual feasibility report. To know your strength, your mental capacity, your physical capacity, your rational capacity, your intellectual capacity, and the amount of equanimity you have. Equanimity is very important. And also you need to know the power of acceptance. Because we have this problem among different human beings from different cultures. They will accept what comes from their religion, their society, their culture. But they will not accept what comes from other societies, from other cultures. So you lack in the knowledge of acceptance. So you need to evaluate the power of acceptance. I mean, how accepting are we? Did you ever ponder how accepting you are? There is a problem, my friend. Right? If you only accept what comes from your culture, your society, your religion, and when something, which obviously is the truth at the bottom, is coming from a different society, is coming from a different culture, coming from a different religion, you instantly denounce it, deny it, reject it, dismiss it as reality. You don't accept it. So, this is self-actualization. We need to know the power of acceptance in you. A Sufi is universally accepting, as it is declared by my master Gohar Shahi. My master Gohar Shahi said, those who want to truly love God, they do not give any importance to cultural, societal, religious background of a person. They only want to see if this person is capable of bridging him with God. As long as he has the ability and capability of bridging a man with God, a Sufi must accept him. This is what Gohar Shahi said. So as a disciple of His Holiness Gohar Shahi, one has to be universally accepting. You must accept the truth, no matter from which society it comes from what religion it comes from. You have to have this acceptance. Now dig deep in your heart and see how accepting you are. That process will be known as self-actualization. Equanimity. How patient you are. And when people blame you for following the truth, they criticize you for the sake of criticism. When you encounter negative criticism from different cultures, different religions, different societies, how vulnerable are you? Whether or not this negative criticism bother you, you need to make sure that equanimity is spiritual patience. What is it? The Quran said, Lawmatul Laim. Those who love God, they don't care for the offenders. They do not care for the negative critics. They continue to practice love. They are not bothered by any opposition, by any undue criticism. They're not bothered. And that is the act of equanimity. We have to make sure we have plenty of it. Because in the path of love, in the eyes of God, only the courageous ones will succeed. If you are not the courageous one, the chances are you will run away from the middle of the journey. In the process of self-actualization, you need to remove this vulnerability to different scenarios, to negative criticism, to undue opposition. You have to be very, very strong, not affected by any negativity. Either it is from within yourself or it is from outside of yourself. Become foolproof, unshakable trust, unshakable determination. Some people are so vulnerable to negative criticism. Their peace is ruffled easily. You can stir them up by saying a negative word and their entire Sufi course will be destroyed. Bulle Shah said, when people call you a disbeliever, oh disbeliever, disbeliever, tell them, yes I am, and don't give a damn about it. Believe in the one that you love. Do not listen to those who are jealous of your spiritual progression in the path of love. So, believe in yourself will lead you to believe in God. If you do not believe in yourself completely, you will never be able to believe in God completely. And when you believe in yourself and you know who you are and what you're doing, you turn a deaf ear on any vulnerability, on any opposition, on any negative criticism. However, as a true believer in God, you will obviously be open to positive criticism, because positive criticism will show you of your flaws, which you personally are not capable of noticing. So a Sufi is always open to positive criticism in order to correct himself, right? But negative criticism cannot shake his foundations. And that is the path of forbearance. And this equanimity is very important. Acceptance, equanimity, all these things. Now, these are the exoteric characters of self-actualization. These are the hidden, these are the mental, physical, and rational points of self-actualization. I hope you're not getting bored, are you? Right, okay. Good. I just wanted to hear it. Number 2, which is very important. To be able to accept all sides of yourself. It's a very small sentence, but it will rip your ego apart. It's a very small sentence. What is it? To accept all sides of yourself. Are you able to do it? Do you really understand what it means? To accept all sides of yourself. You know, in my language, we say, meetha meetha hup hup, kadwa kadwa thu thu. When something is sweet, we don't even make any sound. We just swallow it. But we cannot swallow our pride because it's bitter. Right? In the process of self-actualization, one must be able to accept all sides of himself, herself. What does it mean? A normal person, which is not normal, a normal person today in our societies, they only accept good sides of themselves. And they do not recognize any negative sides in them. So the first step towards spirituality is to own yourself. Whether it's good or bad, accept it. If you do not accept your clothes are dirty, how will you clean them? Right? Didn't I tell you Western Sufi Course is going to be really different? To be able to accept what? What comes from people? No. That's another thing. You must accept it. But before we get onto that stage in spirituality, let's talk about our own selves. Am I able to accept all sides of myself? Or I just want to hear good side of myself? And when a negative side of myself reflects in my character, I straightforwardly go into the state of denial and I say, no, this is not me. No, this is not me. I did it because I was sitting with him. I developed this bad thing because I kept company of Hafiz Farid. Just an example. If I said something wrong, I find people to put the blame on. So you have a problem, my friend. You do not have the ability to accept your own bad side. How can you become a spiritual man? According to one traditions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, God said to him, tell your servants, your disciples, when I want to elevate somebody's spiritual welfare, I manifest his flaws upon him. Accept yourself. Why are you running away from yourself? Are you running away from yourself? How will you accept anybody else? When you have this inability to accept your own side, good or bad, accept yourself. Yes, this is me. I know I am bad. I need help to become good. Before your badness converts into goodness, you must know the bad side of your character. If you are unable to accept your own bad side, how will you accept God, who for the moment is alien to your soul, alien to your physical and spiritual system? People don't like when the bad side is talked about of them. How can you become a spiritual then? So accept. It's easy to accept your good side. You love to do that, don't you? It's easy. Oh yes, you look beautiful. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's true. You look ugly. Huh? What? Are you jealous of me? No, you look bad. Find out if that is true. And if it is, accept your side. You do not embrace your own self. How will you embrace love? How will you embrace God when you are unable to embrace your own self? Self-actualization. This Sufi course is the ultimate Sufi course on earth. The entire Mehdi Foundation International, from Amjad Ali to all, they fail in this field, self-actualization. But you need to work on from today. What is number one? To develop acceptability. To develop acceptability. Charity begins at home, doesn't it? So, first, you need to accept yourself. Is it okay? Right? How do I look? Wow, I know that. Just kidding. I'm really sorry, but I have put my heart into this Sufi course. And these things were very impatient in my heart. I wanted to talk about it. And I just found a pretext of this Western Sufi course. I wanted to share this knowledge with you for a long time. These are the principles of Goharian philosophy. Accept. This will carve your character. This will make you a sublime character. Right? Acceptability. Acceptability starts with your own self. Do you understand this point? So there are few points now equanimity, acceptance. I accept all sides of myself, including my shortcomings. Say after me. I accept all sides of myself, including my shortcomings. I accept all my cures and desires without shame or apology. I accept all. I have unconditional acceptance for people and their unique wrongdoings and desires. Because I accepted my bad side, I know there are some bad, dirty corners in me. I accept that. Therefore, my fellow human being, when they do something wrong, I am not going to be agitated. I will accept him. I will not say he is kafir. I will not say he is bad, because I have accepted my bad side. As a result of accepting my own bad side, I will give him a margin. I will accept his bad side too. And I will make sure that his shortcoming will not affect on our relationship. And we will continue to love each other. And we will continue to embrace each other. And our relationship will not be broken. Do you want to pursue in this type of spirituality? I accept my shortcoming. I accept my shortcoming, my desires. And at the same time, I accept your shortcomings. And I understand this is a bad side of you, which is also a bad side of me. So let's work on it and do not taunt each other, right? Do not socially persecute each other. Do not pick on each other on the shortcomings of each other. Do you think this is good start for spirituality? Brother Steve? The next point is humanitarianism. The next point, humanitarianism. I feel a deep sense of identification with all human beings. I feel a deep sense of identification with all human beings. I feel a great deal of sympathy and affection for all human beings. I have a genuine desire to help human race. These sentences, can they come from you genuinely? These three sentences. I feel a deep sense of identification with all human beings. Can you please write it down there? Type it down there on the screen. I feel a deep sense of identification with all human beings. I feel a deep sense of identification with all human beings. I feel a great deal of sympathy and affection for all human beings. I have a genuine desire to help the human race. These are 3 sentences. Now, look into your heart. Actualize your potential. Tell me, are you able to say this truly? Don't nod your neck, right? Think about it. You cannot offer help to human race? If you can't, then leave the room, man. Why are you sitting here? If you cannot help humanity, then why the hell are you sitting here? I mean, there is no point for you sitting here if you cannot help human race. Humanity is our religion. Right? I have a genuine desire to help the human race. Ponder. If there is a shortcoming in relation to this, if you think you cannot help, then overcome that shortcoming now. And come clean that you have a spiritual deficit in this field. But then register your desire to be able to say this. Right? सूफी कोर्स के टेस्ट के बारे में जो पूछ रहे हैं उनको बताएं कि 12:15 बजे शुरू होगा. To have a deep sense of identification with human beings, it is to be humane. A Sufi naturally is humane. What is humane? When you have a soft corner for human beings, when you have a kind heart for other fellow human beings, you are humane. Do you have soft corner for other human beings, regardless of their religion, regardless of the color of their skin, regardless of their culture, whether they cover their body or they do not cover it at all? Does it affect your acceptability? Make sure your acceptability is not affected by any religious, cultural, societal differences. If as a Hindu or a Muslim, your culture asks you to dress up properly, men and women, but people who live in the West, especially the women, if they do not cover their body properly according to your culture, in that scenario, do you have acceptability of such things which come from different cultures? And the difference of outfits does not affect on your kind nature, your humane ability to accept others? Or you only help those who are like your culture, who are like your religion? This is the question. Brother Steve, tell me if this is okay for people. They're not getting bored. Because this is very deep. This is true enlightenment. And this is very shrewd. Shrewd in a sense. Accept yourself. Because we have this deficit in our behavior. You know? We close our eyes on our bedside and we never want to recognize our own bedside. We only recognize bedsides of others. But as a Sufi, we have to go through this process of self-actualization. And in this process of self-actualization, go through the anatomy of your character. Are you able to accept all sides of yourself or just the good side of yourself?
All sides.
So you need to know. Just imagine how beautiful the society will become when all of us are able to accept all sides of ourselves. If this happens, then people will not taunt each other. People will not pick on each other. Right? People will not persecute each other. Because we have accepted ourselves and we know I have this problem. So does he have this problem. If the bad side in me does not stop me from pursuing in the way of God, why should I persecute him when he has the same problem? This will help bring equality. This will help bring hearts together. This will help build tolerance. We are intolerant in the societies today because we suffer from lack of acceptability in our life. This may not sound as spiritual, but this is what it is. So we have discussed 3 points so far: acceptance, equanimity, and humanitarianism. Right? Now I would like to ask the panel to discuss these 3 points. And then I will explain yet another 3 points of, and this is only the outer side of self-actualization. I think this self-actualization will at least take 3-4 days, the first chapter of Western Sufi. Maybe this Western Sufi course will run for another 3-4 weeks. And I'm determined to do it. So we're going to discuss in our panel. We have a respected Swamiji, Vishwa Anand. We have Wajid Bhai here. We have Brother Steve, Imran, Rihan and Faz and Nasir and whoever wants to be. So the first point is acceptability. میں کچھ زیادہ بہک تو نہیں گیا ہوں کوئی بہت زیادہ ادھر ادھر بھٹک رہا ہوں ابھی تک اسپریچولیٹی پہ نہیں آیا Oh, is it? Okay, wow. All right, here we go, Brother Steve. The ball is in your court.
Gosh, marhaba. I think it's truly mesmerizing the way the course has started and the points that you started with so far. And because you start from the fundamentals of what spirituality is about. It's about first...
Yeah, before you become a spiritual man, you want to explore yourself. How did you explore yourself? You're still the same shit.
True.
You can't accept yourself. How will you accept God? Simple as that, isn't it?
Very true.
If you are not able to accept your bedside, come on, how will you ever defeat hatred? Forget about humility. This is truth, your bedside. Right?
Absolutely.
Let me remind you what Anwar Bhai used to say. If I would, say anything really harsh about Anwar Bhai, and people would then ditch him, and he would say to them, "Oh, this is for humility only. Don't think I'm like that." This is not humility. This is your bedside. Accept it. Humility will come when there is nothing bad in you. And then people will call you bad. That is humility. That is malama. This is not malama. This is you, my friend, piece of shit.
Very true.
This is you. This is real you. Accept it. You will not purify yourself until you accept it. You have to accept it. And accepting your bedside is actually equal to crushing your ego. That's why it's difficult to accept your bedside. I mean, you don't want to own your bedside. یہ میرے ساتھ بہت ہوتا ہے. It happens a lot. کبھی جو ہے وہ گلاس پکڑتے پکڑتے ٹوٹ جاتا ہے. اب دیکھو یہ کتنا یار میں اتارا ہے اور یہ ٹوٹ گیا بیچارہ. چلو
Ji. Like you said, I think it's amazing how first, in order to become spiritual, we must realize and accept who we are. And you started from the very beginning of how, the religions were introduced to humanity, and how when religions were formed, people went towards the religions because they wanted to find spirituality, to find a path to God, to find a way to purify themselves. And initially, when the prophets were leading the spiritually designated individuals and leading those religions, people were able to do that. But after a while, when those religions lost the patronship of those dignitaries, they lost the spirituality, then those religions failed to groom the spiritual aspirants. And this is why people then rooted out from religions. And this is what we are seeing today here in the West, in the East, in countries like Afghanistan, where people are leaving, ditching the religions because they fail to find any source of spirituality, any source of inner peace. And that's why they left the religions. And then we were introduced to the origin of secularism and the origins of secular spirituality. And it's all nice hearing the Kabbalah and Sufi and Christian and Hindu spirituality all formed together. But what happened was people were nitpicking with the different concepts of spirituality, and they eventually lost the original concept of spirituality. And now we have concepts such as New Age spirituality, and people believe yoga and certain practices to be spirituality, whereas practices such as yoga, yes, if you concentrate and focus on one thing for a long time, obviously you would be diminishing the noise within your mind and you'll feel some sort of peace. But that's not what true inner peace is. And this is what we were taught. And then we were told how this concept that we have today of New Age spirituality and the different types of concepts that we have here, especially in the West and the East, and the problem that we have with them. And that's why we should, and then in order to recognize and how we can tell that there's something wrong with that is first coming back to the point, and then you mentioned earlier today as well about the point self-love. We're taught in the West just to love yourself, and they just roll the carpet, all the dust under the carpet and forget about all of it. Whereas, and this is one of the biggest points so far in the beginning of the Western Sufi course, and that is the ability to accept who you are. for good or for bad, you need to be able to accept your bad traits. You need to be able to accept them and then work on them. And it's so beautiful that once you are able to accept your bad traits, Steve Uncle, then I'd just like to hear from you. What do you think? How will this then, make the society as a whole a better place to be when you are accepting yourself, your own bad traits?
I think it's very important.
Oh, it's so acceptability. Yes, yeah. And then when you accept that you have these flaws, you have this negative character to you, then you can accept others, and you can. I mean, this is how relationships can get broken. If you want to strengthen not only businesses but for us like spiritual movements, if you have an indifference with somebody. Oh, he's doing this, he's doing that wrong. You're doing it yourself, but you think he's doing it, and you may not want to get along with that person. And this could stop others developing and others joining your company or joining your spiritual organization in our case. So it's very important for people's relationships, isn't it? People's friendships, people's bonds, marriages. It could go through the whole of life and society. That if you just accept everybody
core
for what they are.
These points are the core of humanity.
And there were so many.
The spectrum of this is so wide.
So many different points that you made, and accepting every part of our reality, and starting with that self-actualization that. I love the when you said about the checking if you're going to go shopping.
Yeah.
Check how much you have to check how much money you have, what you're going to buy, how much money you can spend, which shops you can go to. You need to check first your balance, in your pocket.
Yeah.
So this indeed happens that once you can check within your own reality how far you can travel.
Yes.
In spirituality, how close you can get to God. But you have to know yourself first before you can know God, know yourself before you know love. It's very, very important. And what a first hour. It's been just intense, absolutely intense. And I hope everybody's just going to keep going over and over and over again just to absorb everything that's been spoken.
That's why I asked the panel to discuss this.
Yeah.
Because they must be overwhelmed by the enormity of what was going on.
Yeah.
So I wanted this to sink in their head and the heart, so that it must be repeated. That's why I asked the panel to discuss this.
Right.
आप भी तैयार रहिए.
Thank you. I've my understanding of acceptance is very hard. It's not easy. It's very difficult to know yourself and your bad traits. It's very easy to accept when somebody says you're nice.
Don't we talk about knowing yourself is knowing God?
Yes.
But today you will know what is knowing yourself.
You've really shaken the foundations of mankind today. You've got to know yourself. There's a lot of people who are in self-denial. They think they're all good.
We're all in self-denial.
Even myself, I used to think,
I mean, we're all part of this.
I used to think I'm very good and everything, but until a few years I realized the evilness and the negativity inside me. I was really shocked. And I think that's actualization, self-realization. This is, am I really like this? I've come to terms to accept it, but I need to do something about it.
I termed it differently.
Yeah.
I changed the self-realization to self-actualization.
Actualization, yes.
Realization is one thing.
Yes.
But then, actualize it. It's like cleansing your own being.
Yes, yeah.
It's like ethnic, not ethnic cleansing. Behavioral cleansing.
Very true. Yeah. Behavioral.
Ethnic cleansing.
If you accept, that you're sick and you go into the doctor's surgery and you see other people are sick, you'll be able to sympathize and empathize at the same time. And you will, this is where humanitarianism comes in. You realize that, I have a flaw, so does he. I know who he is, so do I. Just accept him as who he is. Let him live. Tolerate.
Yeah.
And in this day and age, society doesn't know what tolerance is. And they don't even know their own flaws. Very easy to say you're wrong, but when it comes to them, they can't accept it. And this is just the foundation. This is a killer. Knowing your own self and finding out your traits, the negative traits. Easier to accept good things when people say it, but very difficult to accept when somebody criticizes you and points out your wrongdoings. And I take it that if somebody does accept his wrongdoings and realizes when somebody else tells them, and I think that's just a process of them, cleaning their negative side, finding out.
Let me just remind you what Jesus said.
Yes.
Jesus said, with this acceptability perspective,
Yes.
now listen to this, what Jesus said. If you knew how to suffer, if you knew
How to suffer.
how to suffer, you would be able not to suffer. If you knew how to suffer, we're suffering from our bedside.
Yes.
If you knew how to suffer, for example, we're suffering, but we don't know we're suffering. We have a bad side in us, but we're in the state of denial. You suffer when you know you're bad.
Yes.
But when you have ignored bad side of you, you don't suffer. You don't know how to suffer. How to suffer? To know your bad side is to suffer. To know your bad side is to suffer. Because when the evil whispers come to your heart, don't you suffer?
Yes, you do. Yeah.
Why?
Yes.
Why the wrong thoughts are coming to my mind? Why?
Yes.
This is suffering.
That's true. Yeah. That's very true.
Then you suffer. And when you suffer, you beseech to the Lord, I don't want this.
That's true. Yeah.
And then the Lord tells you, this is how to avoid. So in the beginning, you knew the suffering. Only then you came to know how not to suffer. Keep your heart focused on divinity and light. And this is how the evil whispers will get burnt before they arrive at your heart. This is how to avoid suffering. So Jesus said, if you knew how to suffer, you would be able not to suffer. So learn how to suffer. So learn
How to suffer.
how to suffer, and you will be able not to suffer.
Wow.
And then Jesus said, one who knows everything, one
Who knows everything.
who knows everything but lacks in oneself. One who knows everything but lacks in oneself, lacks everything. That is what Jesus said. Thomas said to the disciples, if I tell you one of the sayings of Lord Jesus Christ that he secretly shared with me, you will pick up rocks and stones, and you will stone me to death. And fire will come from the rocks and consume you. This is the same type of knowledge that we part with every day. This is why we have a very fierce opposition
Yes.
from people who suffer from non-acceptability of their own being.
Yes.
This is the result. You have anything to share with?
Ji.
Or maybe afterwards. Swami ji, run the tables.
Today we have learned from yourself, His Highness Guruji, three main points. This is a beautiful world. We see and we feel. The beautiful world and systematic world cannot run without Creator, without God. So that we must accept that there is a God, there is a God. First
True.
point. Second point was we must know ourselves, who we are.
True.
And then we must accept that which position, which circumstances, some negative system, some negative sanskar, some negative points we accept and we follow the negative habits. We must accept ourselves. This negativity is inside. Then we will also accept some all peoples of the world, those who have some negative sanskar, some negative habits. First, we have to accept our negative side also. That was the second point. And third point, when we will realize that I am also with negative and positive both sides, then we will be kind to other people and accept all human beings, that we are all family members of this beautiful family created by God. So that was the third point, that we must be kind, we must be do some humanity works, we must do clear the negativity in the people of the world, so that we must pity and we must do for human beings also. That was the third point. We learn excellent third point today.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. That is so wonderful of you. Self-actualization is like an aptitude test. We need to weigh our worthiness before we aim to reflect the divine visage upon the screen of our hearts. And in order to accept God, we need to first learn the art of accepting our own sides, all sides of ourselves. When you accept all sides of yourself, only then you will accept all sides of others. Once I asked Sarkar Gohar Shahi, what is the true definition of love? Sarkar was very serious. And Sarkar said, when the beloved humiliate you, and this humiliation does not affect your love for him, it is true love. महबूब की गालियां भी जब अच्छी लगने लगे, जब महबूब की गालियां भी, because now, right now, we are good when people are good to us. But the moment people turn bad to us, we stop being good. Oh my gosh. And we all suffer from this. Not just you. I suffer from the same thing. We need to work on this. No matter how people behave, no matter how disrespectful they are to you, you must continue to exhibit divinity. You must continue to manifest divinity. Now you will understand what Jesus said. When somebody smack you on your right cheek, turn your left cheek also. Right? Meaning, when somebody lets you see your bad side, accept it. So this art of acceptability is the first step towards self-realization, towards self-exploration, towards self-actualization. We need to work on this. And in order to further enhance the spiritual senses in our own being, let us start by turning on the first spiritual sense. And the requirement is that we accept all sides of ourselves. Are you going to accept all sides of yourself? What does it mean? What does it mean? It means know yourself. And then know the fact that you have this bad side in you. And then work on it. Why is it important to accept all sides of you? Why? Because God wants to sort virtues and ugliness out, so that you know the flaws. When you know the flaws, only then you will work on the flaws. Spirituality is to work on the flaws and turn the tables and make all sides of you good sides. And that will only happen when you recognize bad sides of you. Does it make any sense? So the first step is acceptability. Accept yourself. When you have successfully done that, honestly, half of spirituality is covered. This is exactly what the Prophet said. Cleanliness is half faith. Cleanliness of the body, your own self. We don't want to recognize the bad side of ourselves. But before becoming a Sufi, you must recognize your bad side. You know, one of the saints of Chishtiya Sufi order, Baba Farid said in his poetry, he said, people call me Durwesh, they call me a saint of God, but when I look into my heart, it's all dark. When I look into myself, I do not see anything but evil. Sant Kabir said, I used to find faults with others, but when I looked into my own heart, then I could not find a flaw with anybody. Once I found the flaw with my own self, जब मैंने अपने अंदर झांका तो फिर मुझे दुनिया में कोई बुरा नजर नहीं आया. This is very, very important. We find faults with others. We recognize their faults and then use it in order to character assassinate them. Is this a character of a Sufi? No. Is this a character of a good human being? No. What is the use of that religion that you practice every day in your mosques, temples, and churches and synagogues, if your religions are not able to let you accept your bad sides? Come to this type of spirituality in which the spiritual armory is ready to pierce through your bad characters, to pierce through your bad sides, and bring them up to the surface and put them on display. Display to you and display to the world. So you may know who you are and they may know who you are. When everybody knows who you are, you will then reprimand. You will then repair yourself. You will then mend your ways. You will then characterize your own being through the process of actualization. This is very, very important. Then humanitarian. You need to see. Do you feel sympathy for human beings? Do you have affection for all human beings? Look into your heart. When you want to help a needy one, do you want to know what religion he practices? If you're a Hindu and you only help those who are Hindu, this is no humanity. If you're a Muslim and you want to help the needy ones, but before you help them, you want to know if they are Muslims, this is not virtue. A true human being is one who helps all human beings, regardless of their societal differences, regardless of their religious differences. कोई भी हो, अगर इंसानियत जिंदा है तेरे अंदर, तो फिर तू जरूरतमंद की मदद करने से पहले यह नहीं जानना चाहेगा कि उसका दीन धर्म क्या है. अगर तू ये जानना चाहता है कि उसका दीन धर्म क्या है, तो फिर तू इंसान नहीं है, तू शैतान है. इंसान कौन है? जो सबकी मदद करता है. In order to qualify to be a human being, you need to make sure that when you help others, you don't want to know who they are. You don't want to know what culture or society or religion they come from. If you have developed this open-mindedness in you, congratulations, you have the first human instinct in you. Right? You have the first human instinct in you. Now, the first chapter is self-actualization, which obviously will run for a couple of days or maybe 3 days. And then we will come to extrasensory perception. Extra. And the third chapter will be 3 Qs. 3 Qs. Intellectual intelligence, which of course is rational intelligence. And rational intelligence is divided into 2 different groups: physical intelligence and mental intelligence. And the second one is emotional intelligence. Just to give you a taste of what emotional intelligence is. If one of your relative is suffering, right, you react in earnest. You want to solve their problem. But when somebody else who is not one of your relatives, not one of your family members, when they are suffering, what is the graph of your emotions? how do you emotionalize yourself in different situations when you see people suffering, different people, your family members or common people? If you are more emotional when one of your family members is suffering, but you're not that much emotional when somebody else is suffering, you're going through emotional crisis, my friend. You cannot be a spiritual man. You need to work on your emotional deficit. And we will do it here. Yeah. Brothers, do you understand my point? Emotional intelligence. Right? Like in our culture, in Hindustan, Pakistan, we care a lot about our mothers and sisters and wives and daughters. We want to make sure nobody is testing them, right? Nobody is, saying stuff to them. But when we go out and see people giving hard time to women who are not related to us, we turn a deaf ear on it. Which means we suffer from emotional crisis. Our emotions are, dormant. Our emotions are only in practice when somebody related to us is suffering. We are emotionally abnormal. In order to be a Sufi, you need to reach a level in emotions where the emotional graph is the same. Whether your family is suffering or somebody else is suffering. When you have the right equilibrium in emotions, then you're emotionally sound. This is what we're going to discuss in emotional intelligence. How intelligent you are emotionally, right? Some people, they go over the board. They put a bit of salt on topping of the emotions, and they exaggerate emotion, or they exhibit more emotions than they should normally do. This is to do with emotional crisis. Some people do suffer. A lot of people, almost everybody suffer from emotional crisis. Sometimes we show emotions, we show more emotions to certain things than we are supposed to. Sometimes we overreact in a sense. This overreaction is due to the fact that we are emotionally in a deficit. We suffer from emotional crisis. And then comes the third cue, spiritual intelligence. How spiritual are we? For example, we will talk about spirituality with the tongue, with the word of mouth. We will do everything physically, and we will assume this is a spirituality. We're doing yoga and we think this is spirituality. Right? We mention the name of God with the tip of our tongue and we think this is a spiritual practice. How will you practice spirituality with physical attire? How will you practice spirituality with your body? If you think you practice spirituality with your body, you suffer from spiritual intelligence crisis. You do not even have the ability to see spiritual activity in you. So, what are the actions of the souls, and how to spot the physical activities within ourselves? This is spiritual intelligence. When to know whether or not our soul is spiritually active. And what level in spirituality is our soul right now? This is all spiritual intelligence. Prophet Muhammad said, "Ittaqu fara'satul mu'min." Fear the power of the sight of a true devout believer in God. Fear the sight of a true devout believer in God. فَإِنَّهُ يَنْظُرْ بِنُورِ اللَّهِ. Why? Because he has the enlightened eyes. He has the power of seeing invested in his eyes from God. And a devout Sufi doesn't simply see, he sees through hearts with those eyes. Spiritual intelligence. When you're spiritually intelligent, you will look at somebody's deeds and actions, and you will know how spiritual or non-spiritual that person is. This is spiritual intelligence, my friend. And then we will discuss as the fourth chapter the sources. What is it? The sources and resources. The sources and resources. The first source and the resource is the universal spiritual master, His Divine Eminence, Lord Rariaz Gohar Shahi. Then Lord Jesus Christ. Right? Then we have the moon as the source. Then we have the sun as the source. And then the fifth chapter is transformation of the self. What is it? The goal of all mysticism is to cleanse the heart. The goal of all mysticism is to cleanse the heart, to educate and transform yourself, and to find God. The lowest level of the self is dominated by pride, egoistical, and totally self-centered greed and lust. The self is actually a living process rather than a static structure in the psyche. The self is not a thing. The Arabic term is related to the words for breath, soul. Essence, self, and nature, it refers to a process that comes about from the interaction of body and soul. When the soul becomes embodied, it forgets its original nature and it becomes enmeshed in the material creation. This creates the self. This creates the self. Genuine spirituality is to be found not in the prescribed formulas of religions. Genuine spirituality is to be found not in the prescribed formulas of religions, but in the heart knowledge. And then next chapter is transmigration of the souls. What is it? Transmigration of the souls. Since people are created in the image of God, so any offense against another person is an offense against God. Since God created man in his own image, therefore any offense against any person is a direct offense against God. The core of spirituality is to imitate moral character of God. The God in whom we believe is ultimately unknowable. Ultimately. We know Him, some portion of God is revealed as you get along the spiritual path. The more you're granted access, the more you come to know. But ultimately, when you're in front of God, God becomes unknowable. And this nature of God being unknowable is referred to His being, which was stored in the hidden treasure, the invisible realm, the unseen world. In this chapter, we are going to dig deep into the character of the unknowable God. We'll try and know the origin of the unknowable God and the invincible and invisible realm, which has been the place of abode for all the invisible characters that descended themselves and disappeared themselves and promise us to come back. Now, after God revealed the 10 Commandments, Moses goes back up the mountain and asks God to reveal Himself directly. After the 10 Commandments, Moses goes back up the mountain and asks God to reveal Himself directly. Moses is not satisfied with having heard God's commanding voice or having seen the consuming fire on top of the mountain. He wants to know, who is this God? He's not satisfied with the commanding voice of God. He wants to know, who is this God who has guided me and my nation? Right? He wants to know, who is this God who has guided him and his people? God rejects Moses' request by saying, you cannot see my face. God rejects Moses' request by saying, you cannot see my face, for men may not see me and live. So men lacked in this field. He would not live if he saw God. And if he sees God, he will not exist. Thanks to His Holiness Gohar Sahib, this deficit in humanity is finally removed. See Him and live more. See Him and live more. But God rejected Moses' request by saying, you cannot see my face, for men may not see me and live. God then tell Moses to station himself on the mountain, and God will shield him as his presence passes by. So God will shield him as his presence passes by Moses, and Moses sees the shadow of God's presence. But his longing is not satisfied. Now is the message to those who have this longing, not just the shadow of God. His Holiness Gohar Shahi has this offer to live in God. To live in God. To live in whom You have developed this burning desire, this longing. And the trouble is, even when you get united and you find the ultimate union with God, the longing still goes on and on. The longing doesn't disappear. This is the type of agape love granted by His Holiness Gohar Sahib. These 6 chapters, there are another 4 chapters. There are 10 chapters that we are going to cover. Are you happy for what we have discussed today? So we end the course here for today because there are a lot of people crying. So we go towards the Sufi test, and then from tomorrow we will start again. God know everyone. God know every heart. یہ تو شروع میں کروانا تھا نا کل. Jesus is a God. Okay? You can write here what you believe and we will not refute. But obviously, I'm not going to force you to believe what I believe. And I definitely understand that you will do the same, my friend. So you can write anything that you want. Jesus is the only way. I'm not going to refute it. I believe Jesus is the only way for those who believe in Jesus. Right? But Moses is the only way for those who believe in Moses. And Muhammad is the only way for those who believe in Muhammad. So there is a way to God from every religion. Like we have a river Thames here, right? And there are many bridges. Tower Bridge, Wandsworth Bridge, many bridges. Are you happy if we had only one bridge? There would be so much, congestion on that one bridge. Kitna problem hota tha na? Ek hi bridge hota. So many problem. If there is only one bridge, so many problem. The bridge will break. Lot of people on one bridge. So Jesus is the only way, that's true. But only for those who believe in Jesus. For Christians. Moses is the only way. Not for us, not for you. For those who believe in Moses. And we have to accept the truth. Right? Prophet Muhammad is the only way for Muslims. Right? There is no problem. And God has created so many bridges. We cannot deny that. But the problem comes when the bridge which is exclusively made by God for you, you want everybody to come and travel through that one bridge. No. It's different. God has created so many bridges, like River Thames. Right? There are so many bridges over River Thames. Had there been only one bridge, people would complain, why only one bridge? Right? I mean, there was only London Bridge, and people who live in Wandsworth, they would have to go all the way to that part of the area where there is London Bridge. They want a bridge next to their vicinity so that in no time they can cross over. This self-actualization will take at least 2-3 days. Is that okay? But honestly, after completion of this first chapter, you will see spirituality with a new perspective. You will feel empowered. You will say, oh, now I know what to do. Right? This is very important. यार अब मैं उस फ्रेम ऑफ माइंड में हूँ. अब मैं लोगों से पूछूंगा नमाज हकीक क्या है, जिक्र क़ल्ब क्या है. It will piss me off, honestly. नमाज हकीक की तारीफ क्या है. अब ये है कि जिन लोगों ने टेस्ट नहीं दिया है, ठीक है ना, तो वो खुद ईमानदारी से बता दें कि वो पास हैं या फेल हैं. सही है ना? वो खुद ही बता दें आप पास हो या फेल हो. आप हमें रिजल्ट दे दें खुद ही अपना. आप अगर कहेंगे कि जी मैं पास हूं तो मैं कहूंगा हाँ पास हो. अगर आप कहेंगे कि मैं फेल हूं तो मैं कहूंगा आप दोबारा फिर पढ़ लें उसको ताकि आप पास हो जाएं. तो आप खुद ही फैसला कर लें कि आप पास हैं या फेल हैं. अब मेरा वक्त ज़ाया होगा ना. अब ये मैं डिफरेंट फ्रेम ऑफ माइंड में हूँ. मुझे बस ये लग रहा है कि आप लोग बोर तो नहीं हो रहे कहीं. The heart can only reflect higher knowledges when it is clean and clear, like a polished mirror reflecting light. Subtle inspirations and openings are always available, but they will only be relevant when the heart receives them, relates to them, and acts upon them. The wholesome heart contains nothing other than His love, trust in Him, and contentment with His will. Brother Steve, tell us about emotional intelligence. Just a flavor. We haven't discussed it. But tell us, what as a gist did you get from what I said a few minutes ago?
Remember in previous courses you've given on emotional intelligence, it's very important that we don't let our emotions take us over, to change our moods, to alter the way that we approach different people. It's very important that we have strong emotions and we can control our emotions, and this is only done through spirituality. And I think that's what I took from the last. So some people, they overexpress their emotions, and some people hold back their emotions. But it's a very important part of spirituality.
When they suffer, they cry. But when they see others suffering, they are non-responsive.
Yeah.
They have no empathy.
There's no empathy. Yes.
Is this because they suffer from emotional crisis?
They suffer from emotional.
They do not
crisis.
identify the same pain in others. That's a problem, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
What do you think?
Yep.
One-sided. Biased.
No. Why does it happen?
No, I think it touches on what you said before about the self-realization that you need to first. I mean, you can't experience every disaster in your life that everybody else is going to, every illness that everybody else is going to. I mean, if that was the case, then you could be empathetic to everybody. I've had cancer as well. I was blind before. It's impossible, isn't it?
But Faisal has this problem. He does.
You know, I was poor. My parents divorced. Not everybody's going to go through every experience of everybody else. But you have to there must be some self-realizing that you've been through difficulties. So you must have sympathy and empathy for what somebody else is going through.
What is the difference between pity and empathy?
Empathy. I think empathy is very deep, that possibly you've had that experience where you can really relate to somebody.
Is it positive connotation, isn't it?
Yes.
Empathy has positive connotation.
Yeah.
Whereas pity is with negative connotation.
And you can make that person feel reassured that you're on the same wavelength, that you can help that person progress and get out of that situation they're in. But if you're just, it's okay, you know, I feel so sorry for you, this is just superficial, as you said, it's just words. This is not spirituality, this is not going to help anybody. And we, in the business that we, as you said before, that we want to help humanity.
Yes.
This is what we want to do. And by helping humanity is if we have empathy and we have spiritual intelligence and spiritual empathy and emotions. Our emotions are awake, not just showing physical signs of emotions, but you have empathy for people. This is what I've...
What do you think of emotional crisis? Is it because there is an ongoing imbalance
Yes,
in your emotions?
I think this develops as our personality develops.
Either you underreact or you overreact.
Overreact, yes. And during any interaction that you are having, in fact, your this emotional side or the emotional intelligence comes out. In fact, sometimes some people just all of a sudden, without thinking how other person they are speaking to, by putting themselves in his or her shoes, in fact, just react suddenly, all of a sudden. And that reaction, the other person sometimes gets surprised as well. Oh, I wasn't expecting this type of behavior all of a sudden. So he has to absorb it before saying anything, in fact. So I think in any interaction that we have, also we feel that, or at least a lot of people go through this thing, in fact, and you find the reaction whether very passive or
very active.
Very active, in fact, actually, which comes as a surprise as well, in fact. Well, one thing, Saidi, maybe you can shed some light on is why putting yourself into someone's shoes is a second thought comes to us. We just react by having our own perspective and our own view and just whatever we want to say for one.
Why it's not in your nature?
Why it's not in the
to react?
In fact, respond after absorbing, considering the rational approach of like every aspect which might be the
because our human instinct is not yet awakened. When it is awakened, you begin to have empathy. and you begin to feel the pain of others.
Not just when you felt it.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
I mean, I don't think it's impossible to feel others' pain if you haven't gone through that pain. I mean, when you see somebody is in pain,
Yes.
your heart should melt. If you're true Sufi,
Sure. Yeah.
your heart should melt,
Should melt. Yes.
right? Otherwise, you cannot be unified. When you say unification, it means you feel the same as I feel. If you have pain, I will feel your pain. This happens when you're unified in love. When you have the same bond
Yes.
in spirituality, when your heart is enlightened,
Yes.
you feel the pain for others.
Yes.
What do you think, Faz? Would you like to shed some light on emotional crisis? I mean, I can say one thing. Faz has been fiddling with his emotions and emotions of others since he was a child. Right. And he knows how to dramatize a situation and how to fake emotions. So let's have his perspective on emotional crisis, because he's been fiddling with emotions.
Gosh,
I'm not even joking. It's real, honestly.
it is. It is definitely.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah, at the moment, whilst hearing you speak and going through all of the points that you mentioned, I'm still trying to process and bring out all the branches to each category that you've explained. But like Majid Bhai was explaining about emotional intelligence, why people don't have the ability to see someone in pain and process it and trying to relate to it before they actually throw upon their own interpretations of what they might be possibly going through. I think where that actually starts off is self-actualization. If you haven't recognized your faults in yourself, you can't relate to someone else, whether you've been through that or not. Until you have seen your own faults and your pain and your own suffering, you can't relate to another person. It's not necessary that someone had cancer and you haven't had it, but you can still go through that. The understanding is that someone has cancer. Obviously, the most affected person isn't him; it's the people around him.
Well, if you never suffered from a suffering like this, you cannot feel the same nature of pain.
Exactly.
But at the same time, you will have empathy. I'm really sorry for his suffering. That is important. I mean, obviously, you can never have the same pain as others are suffering from. But having empathy, right, that is important. Now, before I forget, let me raise this point. Some people are so clever, when you want to correct them, when you want to teach them something, they will say something emotional. And they will want to earn sympathy. Some people are, sympathy seekers. They always dramatize, they always find an element of drama and trauma in daily walk of life. And they will, dramatize a situation where they want to make sure that you're really sorry for them. And you want to make them feel sorry for you so that they cannot demand anything from you. They really fiddle with the emotions. And in simple and day-to-day life vocabulary, we call it emotional blackmailing. Would you like to have some words on this, Brother Steve?
A lot of it is very bad judgment, isn't it? That if somebody, you can out trump them as well, isn't it? Like it's like you're playing a bigger hand.
Yeah.
If they say they've lost £100, say, well, last week.
Oh, I just lost
£200.
200 pounds.
Yeah. And you think you're making them, I don't know what is in your mind, but it's being sensitive to people.
Yeah.
It's all part of this emotions. I remember
But some people do that, don't they?
yeah, somebody told me one, he was an insomniac, a friend of mine,
Right.
and he told me that, I mean, it's quite serious. I mean, it can have a lot of effects in your life. It's a very serious illness, mentally and
Right,
physically. And he said, you know, many times he went to dinner parties or whatever, and if he was tired, somebody would ask him what's wrong. And he would say, I have insomnia. You know, he hadn't slept for days. He wouldn't go into detail, but I have insomnia. And, I sleep like a log. As soon as my head hits the pillow, I'm gone every night. And he said, in the end, I didn't want to tell anybody. He said, what other illness would you say that to? You know? Would you say to somebody, you know, I'm going blind? Oh, my vision is wonderful. Can you believe that? Bad judgment and insensitive, isn't it?
Yeah.
People are. But they don't have that emotional awareness.
Yeah.
So I think it's wonderful if everybody...
I can't stop
It's a
laughing.
brilliant story, isn't it? And you can imagine people saying that.
Yeah.
And he just said, man, I haven't slept for days. I lose work. I can't have relationships. I can't sleep. And this guy's telling me how he sleeps every night and never wakes up. And he said it happens many, many times. People tell you what wonderful night's sleeps they have.
You know, some people will exaggerate in a different way. Like if I say to them, I have pain, they will say, I have cancer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
I thought he'd like that.
So we have to evaluate our... I mean, we should have some emotional integrity, right? We shouldn't be emotionally beggars,
No.
seeking sympathy from
No.
every Tom, Dick, and Harry.
No.
And passerbys, give me some sympathy. But there are people who are always seeking sympathy. And that's all. This is a disease, emotional disease, you know? This is an emotional disease. And you listen to one of their complaints, and you sit there, one complaint after another, and it won't stop.
Any other points?
Their bag is never full of sympathy.
And for us, we ultimately, our purpose in life is to tell as many people about His Holiness's mission and
Yes.
about divine love. So what about if our company is something that people don't want to keep? They don't even want to be with us because we're always looking for sympathy, and, you know, we need to be an approachable person, and we need to be somebody that people want to be around and listen to. So I think it's very important for us, above everybody else, to learn this, you know.
Mm-hmm. But we have already said no added sugar.
No, just one thing which I was thinking is around emotional intelligence, especially I've noticed in some relationships, such as especially like mother and son relationship or children relationship. At certain age, I've noticed that mothers, the emotional blackmailing, as you were relating or saying earlier, in fact, it does increase a lot, in fact, actually. And unless you are basically having a rational thought about it, that whatever your mom is saying or telling, is there a truth behind it, in fact?
But this is the norm of our society, my friend. In India, in Pakistan,
Yes.
you know, we feed our children with sympathy. You know, you see in Bollywood movies,
Yes.
right? I have a heart attack. And he'll say to her daughter, marry the man of my choice, otherwise I will die. I'm dying, I'm on the deathbed. Every day there is this story in our countries. Emotional blackmailing, yeah?
Yes.
So this happens. Why? Because they haven't been spiritually trained. They haven't been spiritually trained. This has nothing to do with psychology. This has to do with the spiritual upbringing. Psychology will identify the problem, but it will not give you the solution. It will definitely diagnose. But then again, how do you fix it?
Yes.
This fixation will come from spirituality.
Yes.
Right?
That's definitely.
So it is part of our society. It is actually the norm. It has become the norm of our society to emotionalize anything, everything. But then when we come to the West, we see emotions are least depicted. Emotions are least exhibited. It's very exclusive to dogs and cats. Emotions. I mean, in the Western society, people are so emotionally poor. They suffer from emotional poverty. We need to work on this, to have emotions. Emotions, they're really important. Bilkul. Emotions. But how to balance, find a perfect balance. This is important for a Sufi. It is important for a Sufi. And some people think, like in armed forces, they tell their soldiers, detach from emotionalism. No, don't do that. They think emotions will make you weak. Okay, you become strong, but when you become strong, when you detach emotions from a person, he's not a human being anymore. And this is why they kill each other without emotions. And what happens when they have killed 100, 200 people, they go back home, they become monsters. You said the armies are loyal to the land. Why we need such loyalty in which you're loyal to the soil, not to the soul? We don't want that. This is no humanity. In armed forces, they teach you that. No emotions. Emotions will make you weak. But without emotions, you're not a human being anymore. Yeah? You're a robot. You're no more a human being. When you have joined an armed forces, you lose sanity. You become completely idiot. I mean, look, Anwar Bhai, he was captain maybe 25, 30 years ago. He still has to struggle how to emotionalize his life. Sometimes he overreacts, sometimes he underreacts, because there is an imbalance in emotional graph. And this is when you're trained to shoot, when you're trained to kill others, obviously you have to detach emotions from you. So this is the worst scenario for a human being. Therefore, nobody should join such professions in which uh, humanity is detached from human beings. Kya khayal hai aap? Now, Physical intelligence. Brother Steve? Swamiji is physically very intelligent. Yesterday, he came to Halwa Puri house. And I requested Swamiji twice, please have something to eat. And Swamiji said, no. I only eat once during the day. And I will eat about 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And then that meal at 3 will take me throughout the evening. And because I want to sit in the mehfil light, I don't want my body to be heavy. I want to feel light when I'm sitting in the spiritual discourses. I think this is physical intelligence. We should know when we want to do something important, we need to feel light. Right? For example, if you're going abroad and you're taking a flight, this was the trend in our countries, Pakistan, Bangladesh, India. You know, people will put on 3-piece suit, jacket, trousers, tie, and they're sweating like a devil. Why are you wearing a tie? Why are you wearing this jacket? No, I'm going abroad. People do not listen to their body. Like Amjad Bhai's wife visited Sarkar in America. And Sarkar was eating food. And Sarkar ate 2 loaves of bread, and then Sarkar said, okay, I'm done. And she said to Sarkar, Sarkar, that's it? Sarkar said, yeah, we eat to live. And you live to eat. You live to eat. I know when to stop. Your hands do not stop. So when we do things that suits our body, we become physically intelligent. Right? We're just going by a juice shop and say, oh, let's drink this juice. Why? Do you need to? I don't know. Then why are you drinking it? We're going to discuss this physical intelligence also. So intellectual intelligence has been divided into 2 different types of intelligence, right? Physical intelligence and mental intelligence. बात समझ में आ गई? Physical intelligence, mental. Now physical intelligence, I have eaten food, right? I should go out and walk a mile. The food will go down. The carbs will be burnt. And I'll feel good. This is physical intelligence. But when you eat and sleep, you're physically dumb. Dumbo. Aren't you? And only eat as much as your body needs you to eat. Do not overeat. If we overeat, then we should over-exercise. Why? To digest it. And also, next time when we want to overeat, the notion, oh, last time I overate, I over-exercised. I want to make sure this time I do not overeat, otherwise I have to over-exercise. This is physical intelligence. But we have some people who eat, and when they take the last bite, when they're compelled to take the last bite, they run to the toilet. No sooner the uploading is done, they start downloading. So thank you so much for today. And tomorrow we're going to discuss a lot of things. I mean, in this Sufi course, we're going to discuss a lot of important things, some of which might hurt you, but in the end, you will be thankful to me for bringing this type of knowledge to your attention, right? And I want to see more and more people tomorrow. Take care.